It's me, Renee. I'm back. Yes, twice in one day. So on Friday is International Book Day or World Book Day. For some reason, you can't celebrate that in England in March. Most of us celebrate in April. Well, celebrate. Sadly, we don't really celebrate. It's not a day off, but I suppose me as a book lover, I do can't celebrate. And yeah, because of that, I'm doing a Hullabalooza of a week where I'm focusing extra on bookish books, not just like, I mean, I'm a booktube channel, so I do videos on books, but this is gonna be, yeah, you'll see. I'm gonna have one video on cool libraries around the world, and I'm gonna do a video on Friday about bookish myths and how to, or what the answer for them is, and then I'm going to start with this one, as you see, which is how to get people to read, or like I suppose in a different way, it's how to get people to read, or like tips to get people into reading. First, I can't forget this is like dyslexia friendly books. I think this, honestly, when I think about it, this is going to be tips for like dyslexia friendly books, but also like just in general. If you want to read, here are some tips. I'm gonna do a section about kids, how to get kids to read, and a section about how to get adults to read. So I'm gonna do both of those in one video. And you know what? I'm gonna start with adults because I feel like how to get kids to read. It's something people talk about often and all the time. Or I feel like at least that's kind of something that is talked a lot about. So yeah, I'm gonna start with the adults, which is not that much talked about. I feel like. At least here, I feel like it's you kind of talk about how less people read now than before, like less adults than before, but you don't really talk about it in the same vein as, or in the same manner, in the same with the same focus as you talk about kids don't read, no. But that sounds like I was parodying. I'm not parodying. I'm like honestly, kids don't read nowadays, or a lot of them don't read, and that's not cool, but also a lot of adults don't read. And I'm like, why don't you read? Uh, so I suppose in a way this kind of video goes slightly into the same video on Friday, but in some ways, but yeah. Now I would say first and foremost, if you're an adult and you want to read, well, I suppose think about what kind of person you are. Think about what kind of person you are. Philosophical. But yeah, people are different. Some people like to read when they were kids and then haven't picked up a book in a long time and then want to get back into reading and don't really know how to do that. So that's one type of reader. You have the type of reader who who's really never been a reader, but for some reason wants to read as an adult. Water is important. And then you have the reader who kind of feel like they have to read because they feel like maybe they feel like they're stupid, and then maybe I don't know, maybe they have friends who read and they don't read themselves, and they kind of want to get into reading to like talk with their friends about reading. And these are all valid points. Though I would have to say like don't like if you feel like I feel like some people might think that if you're gonna go into reading, you should go to classics. Like you should read Dickens, you should read um, Shakespeare, you should read Jane Eyre. I mean, those are all good offers, yes, but that might not be the best place to start. I'm not saying you can't start there, but like, yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily the way to go, really. And also, like, if your kind of main point is that you want to read the classics to like brag, yes, I've read this and this classic. It's like, yeah, I mean, reading them just to brag is not going to be a good idea because if you're not in for it and for the right reasons, you probably will DNF it, or you might skim read it, or you might read it and then forget the moment you finish it what you read. Like, if you're gonna be able to talk about a book, it should be a book that you have enjoyed. And if you're gonna read it just because it's a book people say you should read, and not a book that you generally want to read, then it's not often gonna be a good reading experience. Of course, there's always always exceptions, but mainly, yeah, that's not really a good way to go, I would say. And also, I would say, like, if you want to brag about something, you can easily find something to brag about. That's something that you're more interested in. Like, if you're a person who's not read at all, and you just want to read Dickens, or against and Dickens, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I don't know, for some reason, a book just come to mind, or Dracula, or like, yeah, like different classic smarty pants books. Uh, then yeah, I mean, I would say you could easily just kind of Google what happens in Oliver Twist or what happens in Les Miserables, and then use that as like starting point to talk about the books instead of actually reading the books, because yeah, I mean, that's just gonna give you more kind of bad experience or bad association with reading, and that's not what we want. That's not what we're here for. Not at all. Not at all. Yes. So there's that. So, like, think about what kind of reader you are, and then go from there. Like, if you're as like the first kind of reader who used to be a reader in their childhood or used to be a reader 10, 20 years ago, then you might think, okay, the author that I read a lot, like maybe you read a lot of Dan Brown books 10, 15 years ago. Check out, are there any books by that author that I have not read? To be interesting to, like, yeah, just easily just pick up more books by that author. Have you read all the books by that author? You could go to a library or go to a bookstore and like ask people what's an author similar to this author. Now again, here the trick here is actually to be precise with like similar, because I mean, people often slap like similar, like this offer or the next this offer on lots of books or like new offers. Like every fantasy book out there, or at least everyone with a magical school is compared to Turf's or AP's story, which is like they, I mean, magical books stories did happen before, and not all magical books are that similar to that story. So, yeah, I mean, you can like magical books, magical school books, without liking exactly. So, yeah, try to think, though it might be a bit difficult, but like try to think, what did you like about this specific author? Why do you read a lot of books by this author back in the days? Did you like this author's style of humor? Did you like that there was short chapters? Did you like that there were a lot of plot twists? Think about what you liked, and then go to the library or a bookstore and ask, do you have some similar authors with this and this and this regards to this and this and this? Because yeah, then you'll get a, I would say, quite better recognition than just saying, give me an offer the same as, because the same as can be a lot of ways to be the same as. That's not just one way, really. There's a lot of ways to that things are similar. Similar can be so much. Right? So yeah, there's that. You could also like start or join a book club, because often people feel like, okay, well, I haven't read in a long time, but like, okay, if you join a book club, they feel like, okay, then they feel like more forced, or like they kind of they have a goal, they're supposed to read this book by that date, and then they can meet up and talk about the book with these people. So that way it might be a bit easier to like, okay, I might not be as big a reader as I was once, but now at least I read, at least try to read one book a month. That's a good way to go. And it's also like fun to kind of get together and talk about the book, because rarely you have the same opinion. Often you, or you might, some people might not like it, but you might not like it for different reasons. So book clubs, very fun. If you don't have book club near you, you have online bookstores, online bookstores, online book clubs. You could, if you want to be, if you want to be extra, you can start a book club. I mean, the chance of someone liking to read close to you, it's not, it's not like zero. I mean, there's probably always going to be someone close in your area who likes to read. And if you don't try, you never know. You might ask a library and see if like a library has a book club. yeah, there's lots of options here. Yeah, seems to be a bit weird my voice. I don't know. But yeah, so there's that. And then I would say also like if you're gonna go to a different author now, different author, a different example. If you're a person who never has liked to read, doesn't have like hasn't really had an inclination to read at all, but for some reason you kind of maybe you're supposed to read a lot of documents in for your work, and you kind of want to be able to read faster, and that way, I mean, reading lots of fiction or just reading in general is a good way to do that. Maybe I mean, there's a lot of reasons to go into reading, but for some reason, you generally want to become a lover or more of a reader than you used to be. Then I would say that there are so many ways to go about this. You could go nonfiction. I mean, I feel like often some people think that if you ask you, do you read, and say no, and then you come to your house and you see lots of biographies about uh, bands or uh, painters or whatnot, and like you did say don't read. I feel like a lot of people feel like reading equals fiction, which that's true, but reading is also a lot of things. Reading can be nonfiction, can be biographies. Biographies is nonfiction, but yeah, reading can be comic books. There are a lot of ways to be a reader. It doesn't have to be that you just read Colin Hoover. Like, if you don't read Colin Hoover, you're not a reader. That's not true. So yeah, so if you haven't read anything before, but I mean, if you're not a reader, you probably have, I mean, most people have some sort of interest. If you're not like a big fangirl, you might still like, you, yeah, like maybe there's a song by or maybe like a specific artist that you kind of often feel like, oh yeah, that artist has a lot of songs, good songs. Maybe you can check out if that artist has a biography, or maybe if they like, not all artists has a biography about them. No, true, but a lot of like there might be a uh, musical might be a book about current music by a music journalist. There might be a book about uh, yeah, I mean, yeah, finding like a books like surrounding that. It might be a book about that genre, might be a book about something that influenced that music art singer. So go for it that way, like go for like the biography aspect, like what songs you like. You could do like if you like a specific movie. A lot of movies are based off book, so you could do that. Which I suppose is kind of weird, like me recommending books based off movies based, yeah, books that movies are based off, because a lot of us readers are like, the book is always better, and yeah, often it is. But like if you're not a reader but you have seen some movies, then yeah, I mean, a good way to go is kind of figure out, oh yeah, this movie is based on that book. Then because then you know the story, or sometimes you don't know the story because the book and the movie are completely different. But will always have like some inkling of what the kind of idea is, and then it's not like something completely different. And sometimes, well, quite a lot of times, a movie is like 20% of a book. Like a movie, yeah, it's like the first part of the story, and then in the book there's like so much more. So like if you love the movie but you kind of wanted more from the book, you want more from the movie, you want more for this and this character, you want more for this and this plot line, then going for a book might be a good way, because then you're gonna get more of this and this plot line and this things. So yeah. So yeah, here I actually would say check out uh, if a favorite movie of yours or a movie you have enjoyed doesn't have to be a favorite. If it has a book if it has a book that's the basis of it, or it could simply be like if you like Shrek, for example, the movie Shrek, you could go for like a funny fairy tale retelling, which there are quite a lot of nowadays. I mean, well, still I feel like in a way that has like often been retelling of stuff, but yeah, there's quite a lot of books with retellings of fairy tales, so that's the way to go. Like just kind of do the same genre, not do the same story, but the same genre. And then also I would say kind of try to not be a snob. Don't think that as I said before, like don't think that you have to read classics, but also don't think that okay, so don't Google like books you should read because then you often will get the classics or like heavy books. Don't be afraid to check out the more fast-paced, trashy books. Well, some people say they're trashy books, but I mean, the point if you want to like have finish a book, the point is to have enjoyed it. It's not to read a book that's got the Nobel Prize or a book that won the Pulitzer Prize. It might as well be a book that got the Goodreads Choice Award. I mean, if that's a book that looks like your kind of jam, pick up that. Pick up a book that's maybe a lot of people didn't like. A lot of people say that this is not the best at all. But like if they say like things like this is a fast read, it's not a book you'll love forever, but it's a fast read. Well, a fast read is a good way to go. If you have not read, like I mean, I would say like in general, don't start with like a tome on like 1,000 or 800 pages. That's a bad place to start. That's not smart. But I suppose again, like it might be like uh, that you do maybe you do read a lot for school or um read a lot at for job, but you don't really read a lot on your time off. So I suppose you might be a person who can read like big things, big documents, but you just don't really have for reading at home at after work. So I suppose yeah, you can start with a big tome if you want, but again, depends on the person. But I wouldn't say always like that's really the place to go. I feel like some people they like give recommendations and say like, oh, this is the best book to start with from this author. I'm like, yeah, if you haven't read any of this author before, don't start with like a book about that's 200 pages or 2,000 pages. That's often not a good place to start. Again, exceptions, but I feel like you have better places to start there really. But yeah, again, like don't be a snob or don't think that you have to read the classics or the important reads, like the big prize winners. Or you could easily find like books from best-selling lists because I mean, best-selling lists are often best-selling for a reason. They're quite often fast-paced because most people don't really have time to read or don't really prioritize to read like huge books like huge books like this like for about 1,800 pages. They most people like read thinner books and then read them, yeah, now and then, a weekend now and then. So yeah, like if you think like, hmm, I want to read, but I don't really like mystery. I don't really like gore. I don't really like World War I because well, sorry, World War II, which is kind of often what's out there in non-fiction, well, history, historical fiction. There's lots of books about historical World War I. There's books about 1800s. There's a book about more or less everything. So if there's something that interests you and you kind of feel like, well, there's not really a book about it, or like people are talking about a book about it, like because often all the books that are talked about are crime books or all books, but a lot of books are crime books or they're like yeah World War II books, or like there's certain books that often are bestsellers. But like there exists books about more or less every topic. You will find a book that's interesting if you stumble into the right recommendation, or if you Google the right way, you will find a book that is your cup of tea. I suppose also like yeah, just kind of general, go to a library, ask the librarians for advice, talk to them. A lot of librarians have good advice for how to give you recommendation and help. So yeah, that's also a very good resource. Now, yeah, I suppose also like if you if you're one person who, for example, if you're a person who likes, maybe you're into Colin Hoover, maybe you're into alien smut, which we will talk about smut, like a book with lots of sex scenes. But maybe you're a bit shy, and you kind of feel like, because a lot of people do booktube videos, a lot of people do book talk videos, a lot of people do bookstagram. But again, I mean, maybe you might think that all the people who read are on the booknet or like do make their own content, and that's not true. There's quite a lot of people who read but don't make their content for everyone else. So, like for example, if you want to read but you don't really want to be on social media about reading, no worries. You don't have to do both. And like if you for some reason think like, oh, I want to read this and this book but it has a lot of sex scenes, but like I don't want my brother-in-law to know about all the sex scenes I'm reading. You don't have to have a Goodreads account. You don't have to have a Surrogate account. Or you can have a Goodreads account under a different name and don't use a picture of yourself. You don't have to be like all over the internet about things you read. If you want to read, but you don't want to tell the whole world about it, fine. The point is not to tell the whole world. The point is for you to enjoy reading, and whatever manner you do that, that's a lot of ways to enjoy reading. A lot of ways. And yeah, it's kind of general. Don't think that you have to read specific books. You pick up the books that you feel are for you. Now I'm gonna do like, give me a moment. Now I'm gonna, because I have a little note notebook here, some notes. But yeah, I talked about some of these earlier. But an example for a good book to check out if you haven't really read a lot. Yeah, anyway, this was a bit more common before, but it's still somewhat of a thing. Now, give me a little moment. On like specific type of books you might read if you're an adult who want to get into books. For example, you could do the diary book, which is like the kind of British Jones style where you have the day and the time and then just what happened. And I often kind of this style, which is kind of like one paragraph. My boss was an idiot, and I was late to the meeting, stuff like that. They're often quite a bit shorter than other stuff. Like they might be like, I would say like quite often they're like maximum like 350 pages. So they're not big, but like there's still a cohesive story in them. And also because of the diaphragm, quite easily read. And then also a lot of people, I feel like people say like, oh, I want to read books, but I don't really have time for reading. Well, I mean, you can like get an audiobook app. I mean, there's lots of audiobooks apps out there. You might use audiobooks from a library. Lots of them out there. If you there's not some audiobooks on YouTube, like Sherlock Holmes. A lot of them are on YouTube. So yeah, and the great thing about audiobooks, you can do them while cleaning your house. You can do them while making video. You can listen to audiobooks while making dinner. You can listen to audiobooks while taking a walk, while taking a jog. I mean, all these things. And also, I feel like kind of interesting because I feel like in Norway, at least lately, you've had like more and more people have stopped reading like physical books, but more and more people have started doing audiobooks. And some people still talk about how people are reading less. I'm like, honestly, no, because if it's an audiobook or physical read, it's still the same story. Don't be an idiot. It's not like audiobook does not count as reading. It counts. I'm not going into that debate right here, but it definitely counts. Definitely counts. So don't try me to win that one. I also would say like a lot of audiobooks, like at least for me, some audiobooks, like the story itself might not be that interesting, but the narrator has just a nice voice, or is just very good at narrating. So if you're like, you know what, I'm gonna stick with this book because the narrator is just top notch. So yeah. Also, there's a lot of sorry, there's a lot of authors out there. Authors, well, some also a lot of authors who do their own books. But yeah, what I meant to say was there's a lot of actors out there who also do audiobooks. So yeah, that way you also know like this is gonna be a good time. Moment. Yes, sorry, had to fix something. Back. Where was I? Yes, audiobooks, books as well. Audiobooks count. You can do audiobooks while you do stuff, or if you're tired, you can do audiobooks while you just kind of chill on a couch and listen to audiobook instead of holding a book. If you for some reason are tired in your hands, audiobooks, perfect. Also, if you're blind, don't see well, audiobooks, perfect. Just so many good reasons to do audiobooks. So good. So there's that. And then, as I mentioned earlier, but people often think that books means fiction. No, non-fiction, also a good way to go. And I feel like also often quite a lot of non-fiction, or at least memoirs, are quite shorter. And they might like this a memoir about Patrice Kanikolos, one of the persons behind Black Lives Matter. So it's a person you have already heard of. So you can't go deeper into someone you heard of from news. So that's a good way to go that way. So yes. And then you have again, if you're quirky, if you like something weird, you might not be a big reader, but maybe you like words. This is a non is this is a biography about uh, the the dictionary, but it's also a biography about the person who's writing this, Corey Stamper. So it's a biography, but also talk about how the dictionary has evolved and whatnot. So it's kind of nerdy, but also yeah, quite interesting. Then you have also like different non-fiction books about different subjects. For example, this is a history non-fiction book about let's say British well, historian that's funny. So who's in a way comedian. How do you define comedian? Then he kind of he has a podcast, so he like answers some questions that he's gotten from fans in this one in a interesting, funny way. And then sorry. Also another way to go is simply essay books. This is a feminist essay collection. And essays, at least like in the English way that you define it, is like often shorter texts that are funny, that talks about a specific topic. It could be all essays about feminism. It could be essays about Gilmore Girls. Sometimes an essay book is just written by one person. Sometimes it's written by different people. But yeah, essay books. And also like essay books, you can pick up, read one essay, put it down. You don't. It's not the same commitment as reading a whole novel. You can just read like 10 pages, finish that essay, and then pick it up again in a few weeks' time. Like if you feel like I want to read, I don't really have time. Essays, it's a good way to do that. Just pick up an essay now and then. And yeah, there's also like essays about more than everything. Like if you have an interesting topic you want to learn more about, or read more about, Google it or check it out, and probably there is a essay collection about it. And then we have I feel like I feel like I said most of the things I'm going to talk about really. Uh, yeah. And then sometimes, like, just specific example, here you have a book that's it's kind of interesting because quite often you have a book that's first a book and then a movie. This is actually based on the TV series. So this is a TV series, Murder in Paradise, Death in Paradise. And then the writer behind the TV series decided to write some books set in the same world, but like stories in the same world, but that haven't been made into TV. So this is set in the same world, but not like it's not kind of I'm being so precise, but yeah, sometimes books, like if you come, sometimes a book exists and then the movie exists and they're similar but not quite similar. Sometimes a movie exists and then afterwards someone writes a book based on the movie and it's kind of like more or less the whole script just in book form. This is not either. It's just kind of the characters from the TV series on a new adventure that doesn't exist in the TV form. So yeah, sometimes if you very much like a TV series like Gilmore Girls or Death in Paradise, or also you also have some leverage books. You have some books based around Firefly. A lot of TV series has books based around them. So that's a cool way to go, really. Something favorite from TV or movies, and read about them in book form. Good way to go, really. Because you already know about the world, so it's just kind of a new adventure in the same world. So kind of easier to get into often. And yeah, that's kind of that. Yeah. Then you can also like do like books like these where it's just kind of based upon a Twitter account, so it's shorter things. It's just kind of like uh, 3 sentences and then extra information here, but you just could just read this one if you want. So yeah. For some reason, I'm getting a slight headache. I don't know what's the deal with that. Um, maybe I'll do 2 videos. No, you know what? I'm gonna keep on. I'm gonna try through. I have, I like, I'm more or less finished. I would say with the part about adults. So now I'm going towards the kids. How to get kids to read. Sorry. Though, as you might guess, a lot of ways to get adults to read, you can also do for kids. A lot of the things that to get kids to read, you can do for adults. And also, actually, here for the kids, I actually have more of a list because I kind of, yeah, I went a bit big. I decided to yeah, I had some ideas a few weeks ago because I thought maybe I'm gonna do this kind of video. Maybe I actually might also do like a lecture because I'm actually part of a dyslexia group that kind of helps people with dyslexia in different ways and stuff. And so I kind of want to talk about like reading can be fun even if you have dyslexia. So ideas for how to make reading fun for kids. Make it more like a game, like a play. So you could, for example, you could read, and this is kind of, I feel like, in a way, this is kind of like a no-brainer, but sometimes obvious has to be said. You could be a teacher in school, or if you want your kids to, if you're an adult, if you're a parent and you want your kids to read, you can read one chapter for them from an interesting book, and then stop after one chapter, and then say, if you want to read more, you have to read it yourself. And yeah, quite a lot of kids books end on cliffhangers, and they have like lots of plot twists. And that way, if their book is doing its thing, then the kids will want to read more. So they also they will try to learn to read more, or learn to read better themselves because they want to read it themselves. I feel like I have heard quite a lot of people who anecdotes of people who said that they began to become a reader because the parents kind of felt like, you know what, I'm tired of reading aloud to you, I'm just gonna stop. Or like maybe their parents didn't want to read 3 chapters a night, they wanted to read one chapter a night. And then the kid wanted to like learn about what happened after the chapter 4, wanted to read what happened in chapter 5. So they decided to read more themselves, really. So that's a good way to do it. You can also do like I'm not quite sure what this is called in English, though I would think I think it's something Jimmy Fallon sometimes does, but again, I'm thinking about it, but I can't really quite remember what it is. But yeah, it's this thing. Can I just kind of explain to you? It's this thing where you have a story, so you kind of write down. There once was a and then blank person, and then that person went to blank, and then you kind of have different blanks, and then you fill it in with like ugly or numbers or whatnot. So you're kind of making a story yourself. So like yeah, making a story with the kids could be a fun way to like to go like, oh yeah, words or reading might be fun. I mean, reading is it's just kind of funny stories in a book form. It's not like people. All kids love movies. Well, all kids love movies, but like books are boring because this big idea that books are boring. No, so many books out there. That not all books are boring. So yeah, you could do that. You could also like do I've kind of got an idea, like maybe you could have like, if you're a teacher, you could say like, okay, we're gonna read 10 minutes in class, and you can do whatever. You can sit on a chair, you could put your chair in a different place in the classroom, you could sit on the floor, like be wacky, like with where you want to sit. You could have some good chairs, like often if people have a very good sitting, if the people have a good place to read, like a very good couch, if they a lot of people enjoy to read in a bed, it's just comfy and comfortable and nice. If they have a good chair, that's goes like a long way to like read a lot. If you have a good place to read, really. So there's that, and then you have mm, yeah. You can also like you could read a chapter or a few pages from a book and then say like the kids, okay, now you have an assignment to draw what you just heard, like draw what happened in the few pages I read. Or you could say draw what happened next. So you could make a game where you draw stuff based off the book. Also fun way to do it really. So like mix in different things, not just the word itself, but like and people often feel like, okay, so you're gonna have to read a book and then afterwards you're gonna analyze it and talk about it. Well, sometimes you can just talk about like you can talk about instead of analyzing it, you can say like, what do you think will happen in the next chapter? That's not analyzing it, that's still talking about a book. It's being interactive with a book. It's using the book in a conversation. So yeah, there's that way you could do it. You could also take your class, or if it's your parent and you're taking your kids, you could look around for a little free library. So you could just walk around little free libraries a lot of places. You could Google what they are, or you could just go to your town center and just walk around and see like if you find one randomly. Because I feel like often a lot of cities have little free libraries like randomly in different streets in the center of towns. So you could do that. So it's kind of fun, like, oh, this is a just very small bookstore, because I mean bookstore like place with books, and you can open them up and go and like have a look at if you find any fun books. I was gonna say this, but I'm gonna say it quickly, as a lot of people have said, but it's very true. A good thing to like make people want to read or get the enjoyment of reading, make them decide themselves. Don't say you have to read this, or if you don't read this, you're an idiot. Make them choose their own books. You can give them some options, say like, I've heard about this book, I've read this book in my past, in my childhood, and loved it. But don't say you have to like this, or I'm throwing out on the streets. Don't do that. I mean, people are different. Like finding your own book. Maybe the kid finds a book that was published 50 years ago and you liked it as well, and they both enjoy it. Cool. Maybe they find a new book that you hate, but they love. Doesn't matter that you don't like it. If they like it, it's good. It's valid. Don't think to be more snobbish than that, really. Mm, and then, give me a little moment to see my notes. You could, for example, you could like make like decorate their classroom, or again, if you're parents, you can decorate your living room or their kids' sleeping room with like quotes from different books. It could be with beautiful passages, like pictures from books, like decorated from based upon books. You could have the kid draw something from a book and then having hang on a wall. You could make the kid draw like a small comic and then put that on the wall. So like yeah, decorate the place where you want to focus. If it's a schoolroom, if it's a classroom, if it's your home, decorate it based upon books. Cool way of doing that, really. And there's so many uh, cool pictures or cool scenes from books that you could like draw from, or very many fun quotes that you can use. So yeah, a lot of ways to do this. You could, yeah, the sky's the limit, really. And then we have, give me a little moment. Yeah, of course, tell your kids about what you loved to read when you were younger, or which books were you were really interested in. Sometimes the kids will be like, yeah, I don't want to read the book you like to read. But sometimes, if you like to read a book about gory monsters, maybe kids think like, oh, this book's about monsters? I like monsters. I like dinosaurs. Oh, this book's about that. Yes, and I want those books. So sometimes it could be a way to for the kids to get ideas. So yeah, it could be inspirational. And also like anyway, just showing that you also have had an interest in reading sometime in the past or in the present. That's a very cool way to do it. Like that's just kind of a role model to like showing that yes, I like to read. If you like to read, we can hang out and read together. Kind of way, really. Then we have. Give me a moment. And then we have. Yeah, ask them after a while. Ask them not what they've done this weekend or not what they want to do. Ask them where they want to go, and they can answer. I want to go to Narnia. I want to go to. I want to go to. Now, of course, I'm blacking out. I want to go to Atlantis. I want to go to El Dorado. Like all these places, you can go in books. So instead of what did you read, you can ask where did you go? Because I mean, a great book is supposed to transport you to a place. So in some way, some manner, you kind of were in that place. So yeah, talk about the books in that way, not talk about like how long was the book, how many new words did you read, not be too did you understand or did you learn, but like don't be too analytical or too like scholarly about it. Just be a bit more fluffy and informal, and like if the kids say they liked the book, it was funny, that's enough. It doesn't have to be like it was funny on page 7 and boring on page 10. I mean, if the kid wants to elaborate, cool. If not, also cool. The time and a place for everything, really. There we have that. And then we have, yeah, and then we have, like, you have these different books that it's kind of meant for kids, like, sorry, kids. It's kind of meant for their toddlers, so 1 to 2 year olds. Though, I suppose often I feel like you could use them for like 2 or 3 or 5 years as well. But also, like, in general, if you have a book with lots of pictures and less words, you could sit together with your kid and you can maybe ask them what you think this person in the picture is thinking. What do you think this flower will do? Or what do you think about this flower? And then you can start talking about the picture. And like if they talk about or like make a story about the picture, then it's kind of them being an author and kind of giving words, giving a story to a picture that doesn't really have any words. That's a good way to like start them using language and maybe getting interesting and oh, yeah, maybe words can be fun. So because like a lot of like reading is like words. I mean, yes, you can have like a book with little small words, but like reading its language, and there's lots of ways to engage with language in really. So there's that, and then we have blah 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 blah. Yeah, then of course you could do like tell them interesting, just funny facts about books. Like maybe you think like, well, will the books be interesting, funny if they're not into books? Well, that depends on the fun facts. Like a fun fact I quite like, that's quite like baffling, is that I think, yeah, not, don't quote me 100% here, but I'm pretty sure that one of the facts about, well, one of the things is that the Bible, as in the Christian Bible, is both the most sold book, but also the most stolen book. So that's kind of like, what? And like also like steal the Bible? Why would you steal the Bible? Because that's just so, I mean, it doesn't really work together, I suppose, because the reasons you want to read the Bible but don't afford the Bible. I don't know. But that's, to me, that's quite baffling, really. And then you just have, yeah, you have some bookstores in the world where they have just like small bookstore where you just sold one book. So just a bookstore where they just sell one title. That's quite interesting. And then, yeah, you have so many interesting book facts, which I would say, like, yeah, the sky's the limit there. And I suppose in a way, maybe you could make a book fact and pretend that it's real. And like, if it seems realistic, maybe people will be interested because of that. I mean, it doesn't really have to be that factual. Just, I mean, make the kids interested in reading, and that's a lot of ways to do it. A lot of ways. For example, you could also like do, you can make them, you can ask them like, maybe you want to make a podcast. You could read a book and then afterwards make a podcast about it. That's a fun way. Or they could read a book and then, oh, I suppose it's also kind of the obvious kind of capitalistic answer here, but yeah, you could tell them that if they read one book or if they read like half an hour each day, at in the weekend they could play a video game for like 2 hours. Oh wait, kind of feels a bit maybe lazy, but it is a way to do it. Like it might help some kids like get into reading, because like if they're into games but not really that into reading, and if you're strict, if the kids want to play more, you could do that. You could tell them that if they read um 10 pages a day, they get a certain amount of money. Like don't make it too big, but like, yeah, like $50 or $10. I don't know how much dollars would, I mean, it was kind of weird to think how much dollars you could give a kid, because we don't really use dollars in a way. But yeah, think about a sum and then do that. You could also say like, if you read, so like just kind of general, um general awarding them, like if you finish this book, we will have a chocolate cake. Or we could, or you could make dinner with me. So like it could be like something like if you finish this book, we could go outside and play with a basketball or whatever. Like do like connect a book with like things that they like. Easy peasy really. So yeah, so that's, I feel like that's kind of as what I wanted to talk about. And then again, some examples, like books examples. So you could just like do a smaller book like this. It's often like a good place to start if the kid has just learned to read or doesn't really like to read at all. Don't pick a big book, take a smaller book. And like take a book with pictures, that's nice. A book with like this book, it's not like half this page in pictures, half this is written. You could either read out loud to them like the whole book, but you could, I mean, people seem to think like reading out loud doesn't count. No, it counts if you, like, it's the same as audiobooks. Audiobooks count as reading. If your parents read aloud to you, that counts as having read the book. At least like in the beginning. Like after a while, yeah, you should be able to read yourself and stuff. But, like to make them interested in reading, out loud. It's a great way to start. And then yeah, you could, but yeah, in the beginning you can read out loud. But also, I feel like a lot of people stop reading out loud to kids when they know to read themselves. But like, I feel like it could also be a nice community thing to like read out loud a book, even though the kid can read. Or you could do like, if the kid is 10, 11, you could say like, okay, we're gonna do this book that me, your dad, and me as a mom, I'm just making up me as a mom, that we all read together. So that you read it together as a class, as a family, and then you talk about it. So yeah, I mean, I feel like quite often people feel like, okay, reading is social, unsocial stuff. So if you make reading social, if like, there's been also like quite a lot of books that have been huge bestsellers, and those also have been books that like everyone picks up because everyone's talking about them. So like, if you talk about a book, if you make it social, it's also like a good way to like go into the book world, really, to do something with it socially. You could make a quiz about it, or make a quiz about it. You could draw from it. I mean, yeah, lots of options really. So, and also like, in general, Time Villains, great middle grade book. It has and also like one of the reasons, like one of the ways you could get people to read, find something that's fast paced, find a book that's action filled, like either there's a mystery or there's like lots of things happening, lots of plot points. And also humor. Humor is very important to getting into the reading world. That's important both for kids and adults, both alike. This is about a kid who has a magical table that brings people from stories or history to life. So he has a visit from Mozart, he has a visit from Blackbeard. So these historical people, but also Dracula also ends up showing up. So there's this famous people from the world who you kind of use in this book. So it's famous people that you already have heard about from kids TV and whatnot in a book. And yeah, I would say also in general, like, if you want to get into reading, use something you already know something about. So that's something that's familiar, and then go out of that really. Then you have The Red Pyramid by Rick Riordan. This is Egyptian mythology. It's two siblings, so it's kind of like sibling rivalry, siblings arguing. So it could be a nice way to like get kids to read. Maybe read have two siblings to read together. Have them read a book about siblings. This is funny and unexpected and fast paced. All the good things really, and also it has it has chapter titles as like, it's like not just chapter one, but like there's a name for each chapter, which I personally very much enjoy and love. Pages and Co., which is about a series where you go into books. So it's kind of about all about love for reading and the magic in reading. It's also like, yeah, again, a book where you have, give me a moment, where you have big pictures. I would say in general, pick a book with lots of pictures. That's a good place to start in the beginning, for kids at least, because yeah, something nice to watch, to look at really. Scholarly Pleasant, a skeleton who talks and who's sarcastic and who solves crime. What's not to love? It is very, very good. There's a lot of books in the series right now. They're written for like 9 to 12-year-olds, like in mind, but like some in this series is kind of like horror-ish, because like there's very evil villains. It's heads being chopped off and whatnot. So it's not for every person in the world. But like, if you are a person who's a bit tough, who's not too scared, pick up this book. Or if you're like me and you don't really mind to skip some scenes, you could just read the scenes that aren't that scary and then skip over the scary scenes. Also a way to do it. Also, yeah, Luca, which is a book with like, it's diary form for kids. It's lots of pictures, so that's a good way to go. Um, Also, yeah, also I think what you also could do if you, at least for kids, if you want to get them to read, find a book with an unreliable narrator, or not unreliable, but find a book with like a narrator that's kind of a meta narrator. So a a narrator that speaks to the reader that says like, "Hello, reader. I bet you weren't expecting me," or in chapter 5 you're gonna regret not finding some water, or like, yeah, talking about what happens in chapter 5 when it's just chapter 1 and whatnot. So like books like that, I think like often are quite interesting for, well, actually I feel like kind of people in general, but like, yeah, if you're a bit like unsure, do I like books, like, oh, the the author or the character is talking to me. Oh, this is interesting. So that kind of makes you intrigued and whatnot. And that's quite often, yeah, a very fun way to interact with the story and author and whatnot. So, yeah, I hope you liked this video, that it was kind of informative, that it wasn't too bad or too uninteresting. I don't know, I'm giving myself uh, uh, hit. Just nagging myself there. I suppose sometimes you feel like, did I do this right? But I feel like, yeah, I feel like this wasn't too bad. Yeah, if you have any tips on how to get people to read, both adults and kids, if you have any book recommendations, put them down below. And I'll see you soon or later this week. And yeah, bye.